Welcome to Yin and Young. The following is a story taken from Chapter 2. I have called it The Ordeal is Over. I hope you enjoy it. Next to her bath photo is another image of Yinlin outside the rear of her childhood home. The home is a single-level flat constructed of brick, built side by side with several other flats. Using a system of shared walls, they form a horseshoe-shaped enclosure around a small courtyard. The brick walls are covered with an off-white concrete plaster, and the courtyard is paved and well-maintained with frequent sweeping. There are few plants. A bicycle leans against the wall behind Yinlin. The photo was taken early in the afternoon. Yinlin is similar in age to Joey's sister. Her hair is tied on both sides in small ponytails. There is no smile on her face. Rather, it is contorted into a frown, her eyebrows furrowed downward, shielding from the sun. She wears a white and yellow dress with ribbons hanging down the shoulders and waist. While the dress looks fresh as spring, her face looks as if she is immersed in a pit of snakes. She chokes back what she can of her tears, and her mother wipes the rest away, but hardly notices, as she beams with pride at the beautiful dress she made for her daughter. The other ladies acknowledge how fortunate Yinlin is to have a mother who makes such nice dresses. "How much your mother loves you," they exclaim, in the usual affirmations. It is part of the family orientation of Chinese people to let the children know how much their parents sacrifice for their benefit. However, no one commented how different the dress was from normal children. If this dress were on an adult, it would be thought too showy, too decorative and attention-getting. Though the overwrought elegance of this dress was obvious to everyone, it seemed somehow acceptable since it was for a young child. Yinlin's mind was consumed with the thought of the itchy, scratchy ribbons. Every time a warm breeze blew over her damp skin, it created a cooling sensation, and the blowing ribbons felt to her as if evil spirits were creeping into her flesh. To Yinlin, the ribbons were snake demons. She shuddered deeply, hopping and jostling about in order to escape them. Her mother got angry. "Yinlin, stand still. How can we take a photo with you jumping like that? You need to let your father see you in this photo." Her father was not around to make smiling faces, but Comrade Wen cooed patiently to her, coaxing her into a proper pose which would last moments only, until she once again lost focus, stamping and wriggling to get the itching demon ribbons off her arms and legs. As evening approaches, Yinlin is back in her normal clothes, a pair of gray shorts and a loose-fitting white cotton shirt. She sits on the ground playing with a small blue truck that has "Long Live Chairman Mao" written on the side. The smell of rice and soy sauce lingers in the air, and adults lounge about, fanning themselves, while a few mothers are casually removing dishes. One of the men cuts the hair of another. There is laughter and animated storytelling. Someone had seen photos on the newsboard earlier in the day indicating that an American orchestra was visiting China. This was big news, though perplexing. Chairman Mao is often quoted as saying that it is bad if China is not attacked by the enemy. Because if China is not attacked by the enemy, then a clear distinction is not being made. China's virtues would be diluted, and China would become indistinguishable from the other nations. However, the times had become uncertain recently, as only a few months ago the president of the great imperialist nation visited with Chairman Mao and other officials as a guest of China. Now the news tells of a large group of American symphonists playing their music in major Chinese cities and touring about China. No one thought they would see the day that counter-revolutionaries would walk about freely in China. Today, photos display Jian Qing, Madame Mao, and fellow Gang of Four member Yao Wenyuan sitting in the front row of a performance that took place on September 16, 1973 in Beijing. "Who saw the photos of Jian Qing attending the concert?" one of the ladies asked. "It's normal for Jian Qing to attend concerts," another replies. "Sitting in the front row with Yao Wenyan," says the first. "That must be an honored performance," replies another, as she chews on a sunflower seed. "She was wearing a dress," says the former. "I saw that too," says another, as she approaches the seated ladies. The dress was black silk. Some in the circle looked at each other, and another one, fanning herself with the cloth, asked, "Were her shoes pointed?" There is slight laughter, but an increased carefulness with their language. "What kind of concert?" asked one of the ladies, sitting back in the shadows. "It was an orchestra, an American orchestra," replies the first one. She emphasizes the word American and feels the importance of her words and the effect it is having on the others. "Long live Chairman Mao," another lady said. "Yes, long live Chairman Mao and long live the revolution," replied several others, as silence settled in the group. To a Western audience, this interaction does not completely convey what is being communicated during the conversation. The meanings are concealed behind a well-developed carefulness whereby words with an officially accepted meaning can carry a secondary and implied meaning that a knowing individual might pick up on. Most people at this stage in the Cultural Revolution had learned how to shift back and forth between the implied and literal meanings of words so as to escape possible accusation. The birds have ears, as it has been said, and even innocent conversation about publicly known events could have negative repercussions. It would do for us to go back and replay the conversation so that the implications of the words may be clearly translated. "Who saw the photos of Jian Qing attending the concert?" one of the ladies asked. Translation: "I have something strange to announce." "It is normal for Jian Qing to attend concerts," another replies. Translation: "We all know her revolutionary duty as Vice Chairman of Culture is to fight imperialism and promote the revolution. Of course it is her job to reform and supervise the arts in China. There is nothing strange here." "Sitting in the front row with Yao Wenyuan," says the first. Translation: "She attended as a guest, not a supervisor." "That must be an honored performance," replies another, as she chews on a sunflower seed. Translation: "If she is the guest, she is showing everyone how wonderful this is, a true model for the revolution." "She was wearing a dress," says the former. Translation: "It is clearly not a model for the revolution." "I saw that too," says another, as she approaches the seated ladies. "The dress was black silk." Translation: "Jian Qing is acting as a counter-revolutionary. She is wearing imperialist clothes and distinguishing herself higher than others." Some in the circle looked at each other, and another one, fanning herself with a cloth, asked, "Were her shoes pointed?" There's slight laughter, but an increased carefulness with their language. Translation: We all know the story of the woman whose pointed shoes had the tips cut off by the Red Guard because of their counter-revolutionary implications. At this point, the crowd of women see that the wife of Chairman Mao is clearly contradicting her own zeal to persecute those who dared to differentiate themselves from others, who expressed their longings for something like beauty and individual pleasure. It is not difficult to remember the pain that her office, along with the Red Guard, protectors of Chairman Mao, inflicted against the longings expressed in this culture stripped bare. And now, in full view of the entire country, published in the official Chinese news media, she is doing the very thing that had once been cause for shame, pain, or death for any comrades willing to demonstrate even simple passions. "What kind of concert?" asked one of the ladies, quietly sitting back in the shadows. Translation: What is she promoting? There must be some explanation for this strange shift in behavior. "It was an orchestra, an American orchestra," replies the first one. She emphasizes the word American and feels the importance of her words and the effect it is having on the others. Translation: She is promoting friendship with the enemy. "Long live Chairman Mao," the First Lady said. "Yes, long live Chairman Mao and long live the revolution," replied several others, as silence settled in the group. Translation: Probably confusion. A mix of, did all our suffering and struggle against capitalism bring us to the day that we entertain imperialist dogs in our own capital city, and let them feast their eyes on our women leaders, with, wow, so we might once again have beauty and color in China, with, is it possible that we might make friends with the West? Such conversations were taking place all over the country. Or if not exactly conversations, at least the thinking was changing. There was a shift in mood and tone throughout those parts of China that were attuned to the events of the day. However, change and thoughts of change also produce feelings of anxiety, as no one wants to see, once again, a return to the early chaotic years of the Cultural Revolution. Hope was a dangerous emotion, and was nearly always accompanied by anxiety and dread. What most people longed for was stability and peace, but they also wanted fresh air. Even now, people were beginning to question what exactly the Cultural Revolution had accomplished, and what had been lost. Juyu sits on the edge of a bench, appearing to listen, while absent-mindedly watching her daughter sit on the ground nearby. Juyu is still thinking about how beautiful the white and yellow dress looked on Yinlin that afternoon. A dress that would be seen on no other child in the country. She loved that dress. For Yinlin, the ordeal with her dress was already a forgotten memory. The clothing she wore now was much more comfortable. Though the heat of the day had passed, the ground on which she sat still radiated warmth, and the gentle evening breeze no longer gave her chills as it did earlier in the day. She absorbed the feeling of community in the after-dinner conversation. The chatting of adults, children running about, and the smell of food satisfied and contented her. She felt safe.